Keep California cowgirls from vanishing. Welcome to the Urban Cowgirl Show. Training our horses and miniature cows in ranch versatility. Penning Rusty and Susie, our bull and heifer. Roping Rusty with Morgan horse Semi. Training Eve to work over her haunches with a motor cow simulator. Training Eve on a cow roping simulator. Sadie practices over the haunches with an ATV mechanical cow simulator.
Pulling slack. And Susie's coming my way because she feels the pressure behind her horns.
Sonia and Eve introduce the ATV Roping Cow.
This is Firecrest Easter Eve, and I'm Sonia Sokolow, the Urban Cowgirl, practicing roping today. And I'm just going to show you what the plan will be. We're going to have a lot of repetitions of this. We're going to go into various places to do it. And we're using for today my mechanical equipment, which is a child's ATV pulling a Craftsman rig that I set up to be roping horns. I've got in my hand my ranch rope. I like ranch roping. I don't like chute roping. Chute roping is not real. It's coming out of a chute, running down an arena, catching a cow on the run, catching a cow's horns or a horn and a half ahead, pulling the cow around, having your heeler catch the heels. But you know, for a ranch versatile horse, you don't do it in an arena like that. You do it out in the open, in the pasture. So you need to practice what we call ranch roping, which means from any angle. With this long ranch rope, it's a 50-foot rope. It's a lot to hang on to, in addition to directing your horse, letting your horse put you in the right position, and of course being able to skillfully catch the horns that are on the back of that ATV. Now when we get skillful enough, we're also going to use an electric bike, which goes even faster than the ATV. But for now, slow is the name of the game. Okay, so I've got many, many coils in my hand. I've got the coils that I'm going to want to let loose when I throw between my thumb and forefinger. And I've got the last coil that I don't want to ever let loose because the rope's got to stay in my hand between my middle finger and my ring finger. Now, in addition, I have to hold on to my reins. Today I have split reins on because we were doing other things with Eve, but in the future I'll have my roping reins on, which are not split reins. We have an O-ring snaffle, that's good enough. Even a side pull is good enough. I have roped with Eve in the past, but it's been months. She's a big, powerful Morgan, and she's usually pretty good about having the rope over her head. Watch her ears. She's listening, she hears the swooshing of the rope, but she's usually okay about it. Now I'm going to turn her around. Look where I want to go. Whoa. I'm going to ask her to stand here, and I'm going to show you how I build my loop. Usually in ranch roping you want a big loop, and this loop isn't big. It's almost bordering on small. Now watch how I flip it around. Let go of a coil. And Eve's got to let me do all of this, you see. So it does take a certain disposition and a lot of desensitization training. And now I'm forming my loop so that it feels balanced. And balanced is about 1/3 double and 2/3 single. If you can show that on the camera. Aaron. Okay. And this is what we call our east corridor, and it's on a creek bank, so there are a lot of little critters running around here. And that's my biggest concern with Eve when we rope back here, is that she doesn't get spooked by deer, bobcats, coyotes, that might come and see what's going on here in this east corridor. But for today, it seems pretty quiet. The yew trees aren't swishing in the wind. Pretty good time to try to make sure that Eve will at least allow me to put her in position behind this roping machine. Whoa. Come on around. Come on around. Whoa. I do have spurs on. I use them to tickle, to get lateral motion if I need them. Need that kind of movement. I'm going to ask Eve to, she's a little bit high-headed here. We've got to work on breaking at the pole, collecting. These are all the things we're going to show you how we refine this year. Back, 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 and over, over. Whoa. And I need a good haunches, whoa, and a nice energetic back. And we're going to work on that, not just back here with the roping machine, but in the arena as well, by fencing and working with the cutting machine. Now, if I put myself in a position, let's say, like this, and even at a standstill, it can be a challenge to rope. I have to make sure I let go of a coil in my left hand so I can reach the horns. Then I have to make sure I can pull slack without changing my balance in my saddle, because I don't want to affect my horse's position. Then I want to make sure that I can wrap my rope around my horn. That's called dally. I'm going to ask her to back, back, back. Whoop. She sees the rope get taut between the horn and the horn of my saddle and the horns of the simulated cow. She's okay on it, but we're going to do this all in motion eventually. Now, what's motion? Can you get off and loosen the loop? There we go. That was a legal catch. I could have pulled slack tighter. Now, I'm not going to try to combine the rope throw, the slack pull, the dallying, and all of that with Eve today on the move. So I'm putting the rope in my right hand, and then Ashley is just learning how to work this ATV roping machine. Now wait a minute, Evie is getting high-headed, so I need to not just bump her down, but just turn my wrist a little bit. Turn my wrist a little bit, because I want that suppleness to come here at the pole, not just at the neck. Oh, back, back, and over, 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 over. And do a little bit of right pressure with my calf, opening the door on the left. Now, I'm not sure how she's going to behave, Ashley, so if I ask you to stop, then just stop. And if I ask her to stop, I'll use the usual word of ho, okay? And we're just going to see if you can go straight away, let's say up to that tree, and I'm going to have Eve rate this mechanical roping machine, which I made here at Midmore Farms. Okay, Ashley? Okay, stop. Whoa. Back. You saw how hard she was at first? She wasn't responding at all to my rein request, so that's good to know. We really have to work on that. But then once she started following it, it's like she remembered. She remembered she used to rate this roping machine, and so she's not going to be spooked by it at all pretty soon.
Semi meets and rates the ATV roping cow in a pasture.
Semi and Katie is just riding her enough so that Semi is desensitized to things in this open field, like ground cover, a lot of it, a lot of deadfall. Over there, a creek bank with critters, you know, bobcats, deer, etc. We put the roping machine out here, It's still a little bit damp on the ground, so we're going to wait for it to dry in the next couple days because it did rain yesterday and it's not supposed to rain for the next 5 days. But here is our way of showing Sammy, you know, what it is we're going to be asking her to do. And that is, she's going to be raiding this ATV roping machine. Somebody's going to be driving it. And there's some roping horns behind it. And somebody in the saddle will be with a ranch rope, a long ranch rope, following it, approaching it from the side, approaching it from the front, because that's what ranch roping's all about. It's not just running after the steer down a sanded arena in one direction. And we're gonna teach Sammy and practice with Sammy, as well as Sadie and some more with Eve, how to do some ranch roping with the help of this mechanical device, which we assembled here with inexpensive materials at Minmore Farms. Now the next thing I'm gonna do is turn this camera off, get my helmet on, because I'm going to be running the ATV, and who knows, in this kind of uneven ground that's slightly slippery, who knows what kind of a safety hazard there is. I'm going to put my helmet on, and I'm just going to let this camera take a moment or two of video to see what Sammy says about all the clanking. The ATV is battery operated, so it itself doesn't make a motor noise, but all the clanking of the whole system does make a kind of a scary noise. And we'll let you see how Sammy behaves with it, and then tell you what we're going to do if we think that there is desensitization in order. Okay, I'm going to be walking out there. You won't hear anything, but you'll see me trying to make the ATV work, and we'll see how Sammy behaves. We have not rehearsed this. And when I say trying to make the ATV work, there are some traction problems sometimes, especially if the ground is wet. So I might be standing up and pulling the ATV one place or another. There are on the right rear wheel, there are some chains. I think it's the right rear. It's only one of the rear wheels, which we use to help get that traction. And we'll show you how we're going to practice ranch roping eventually with all 3 horses on a regular basis. Well, you could see that Sammy did very well. It was clanking. I don't know from this distance the camera could hear the clanking, but it was definitely clanking. I found some ground out there, especially in the sun, that wasn't too wet and slippery, and gave Sammy an idea what her next obstacle task is. Because in fact, this ATV roping machine is almost like an obstacle in my obstacle course. And these very expensive roping and cutting machines that are being sold on the market today, now you're starting to find shows from trainers saying you can't just put a horse in front of them, you got to train them to accept the machine and to understand what their job is in front of, around, and following that machine, even if that machine turns around and follows them.
Sadie follows the ATV roping cow in a pasture.
We're just going to do with Sadie what we did with Sammy, and it's a much drier day and the sun is out. So if all goes well, if Sadie rates this roping machine the way we want her to, and Katie, notice that Katie has her rope in her hand and the roping reins on this time. If all goes well, and we'll turn off the camera, and I'm going to get in the saddle, throw a few loops, and if all goes well with that, we'll show you what roping practice is all about here in this pasture at Minmore Farms with my ATV roping machine. Well, she was good, right?
Yep.
Okay, so the next thing is not only for me to get up on Sadie and throw a few loops to make sure she's okay with having the loops over her head and the coils in my hand and so forth, but for Katie to learn how to ride and drive this ATV roping machine. Now I'm up on Sadie. I've got the loop in my right hand, approximately balanced the way I like it, which is double, about 1/3, single, about 2/3. I've got 4 coils in my hand because I don't have a real big loop right now. If I had a really big loop, I'd only have 3 coils in my left hand. I have the coils between my thumb and my forefinger. I have my roping reins, which are just these white, narrow cotton reins, around my middle finger. And I'm going to look over. I do have my spurs on, so I'll tickle her if I have to. Whoa. I've got my tail of my rope here on the left hand. Now, Sadie just saw something. I do have the double reins on because we are at the same time trying to work with Sadie on break at the pole, and these Alrag-Uzine double reins are really good for that, but you can see that my hands are pretty busy. So I don't think I'm going to be able to use them while I'm practicing roping. Nevertheless, we did warm her up, and we have them for that purpose. You just pick up, I could if I had to, pick up with my little finger. Right away, they break at the pole. Okay, so what I'm going to do now, before we even move, I'm going to walk over and try to rope at a standstill, but not behind. Not behind, because ranch roping is not necessarily roping behind. Whoa. Over, over, over. Do you see how you have to have a handle on your horse's body parts? Over, whoa, good. Now, I am going to, from this standstill, let's assume I'm actually trying to rope a cow. Let's say the vet's here and needs to doctor the cow, and we're in the pasture. I'm going to see if Sadie will allow me to swing this loop. It's kind of small. I might have to make it bigger. Definitely I'm going to have to make it bigger because the horns are bigger. So I'm going to make a bigger loop. One way to do it is to flip it around like this and then slide the Honda. The Honda being this part of the rope down. Now I've got a bigger loop. And if I slide the Honda a little more, I've got an even bigger loop. But if for some reason I had to start moving around, I wouldn't want a big loop like this in the way of my horse's feet, maybe accidentally get under my stirrup, so I would tuck this end of the loop under my arm like this. And now I can maneuver my horse. But for this demonstration, she was great. And I lucked out, I got 2 horns. I'm not going to pull slack, but what I am going to do, hey, she's trying to bite the rope. You see, this is all relatively new to her. I'm going to, not going to pull slack, but I am going to dally. And dally means I'm going to take my rope, go around my horn. See, and she wants to eat the rope. She wants to bite the rope. It's something we're going to have to work on. It's all because this is new to her. Okay, Katie, can you take the loop off? So the next thing I'm going to do is, just like Katie was following Sadie, I'm going to, following with Sadie, I'm going to do the same thing, but I'm going to have the loop in my hand. Maybe make the swooshing noise that it makes, but more than anything, for this lesson today, I just want this to be not a spooky thing for Sadie. I want her to understand that there are all these steps involved in being a rope horse, following the moving object, having reins and bits and so forth. I'm going to swish it over her head now, not throw it. Look at those ears. If my cameraman can zoom in on her ears. Body language tells you everything. She wanted to hear what was making that swishing noise, so she turned her ears. Now, because this is a rather big loop, and I don't want it to get hung up in her legs and in my stirrups, I'm now going to tuck it under my arm like I did, back up, and Katie's job now, being that she's the ATV driver, is to try to go around that tree like I did. Now, Katie, I do have to say that when you get on something that's not exactly level, yeah, you kind of feel like you might tip.
Yeah.
Now, it's not a big machine to tip. Bigger machines will tip on not level ground. We had our Kubota tip over once because the bucket was too high and the ground wasn't quite level. So just try to avoid the not quite level places. And if you do find yourself driving on them, just keep in mind, you know, the pressures, the forces on you, because you're going in a circle. Okay, now I'm going to back her up, and you move out. When I feel comfortable, I'm going to follow you. Not too close, but not too far. And remember, the brake is in the left hand. I always keep my hand there. Very nice. Very nice. Watch that stump that you just passed. If your wheel had gone over, it would have been difficult. And here we are under branches, but oh well. Ranch versatile horses might have trees and branches around. Good. Now I'm asking her with a little bit of squeeze to get closer. Okay, can you stop? Hey. Whoa. And then I'm going to ask her to back, because ultimately this is all powered from the haunches, and the best way to do that is to get them to back and work over their hocks. And you know, Clinton Anderson says, if you think you want to try it again, don't. And I want to try it again, but I won't. Not today. This was such a good experience for Sadie. It was a good experience for this team, and we've got many, many chances to do it again.
Sonia on Eve, roping the ATV horns.
Today is a roping day. We're actually back up on Eve in this pasture. We're going to see what happens when we rate the ATV, and then when I try to rope from various angles. Okay, Katie, like we did yesterday. Heels down, trying to stay in position here if I were trying to rope from back here. Easy. Good. Go back to where you started and stop for a minute. I'll explain what I experienced up here. Whoa, whoa. Okay, I did have to slow her down a few times. She was getting too close to the mechanical roping cow. So that's a matter of training and repetition. Where is the proper position for the horse relative to the moving object that's going to be roped? Depending upon where I seem to have a good place to throw the rope, as Katie does the same track around the tree, I'm going to put Eve in a position to rope the horns, not necessarily from behind. Maybe from the left, maybe from the right, maybe from behind. Maybe I'll come back and wait for Katie to come towards me. I've got to watch the branches here, because remember, I'm in a natural. Whoa. I got one horn only, but I'm grateful to have gotten the horn. She rode when I wanted to. Let's see if I can get it off and form the loop again. By the way, sometimes when you are roping in competition, you get to have an extra loop if you miss. But oftentimes it's really hard when a cow's running around in an arena and a horse is all stressed to form your loop within the time allotted for the roping run. I don't want to pull on her mouth. I have to keep thinking about that because I've got my short roping reins on and all of these coils in my hand. Sometimes you forget you've got the reins in your hand, which is linked to your horse's mouth. Try to cut wide again there. Okay. I have to pick and choose where I'm going to swing my loop. Hold it out from my stirrup. I'm keeping even position. Whoa. Nope, didn't catch the horns this time, but I did do a powerful loop. And if that had been a real cow, I would have been able to reach it, but not rope it. Now we're going to try this run where I'm going to try to rope from the left side as Katie goes by. Whoa. And look at what Eve did. She went right by the target. That's part of the problem. Whoa. You got to get your horse to understand when they can move and when they need to stop. So we're going to have to do a little more rating without the rope in a hand so that she understands when the moving object stops, she stops, and in what position we want her to stop. Okay, try to go towards that white fence, and I'm going to try to come to your left side of the cow and see if she'll let me rope. Whoa, back, back, whoa, there. There's a horn and a half ahead, and I've explained this on other roping shows that you get one horn and the loop is under the neck. That's called half ahead. Then you can pull a cow and put it in the position you need to put it in for the next step.
Our cast of characters: Sadie and Eve, Sammy, Rusty and Susie, heifer calf Sela. For more information, www.urbancowgirlchannel.com.